There you go. And we're live. Yeah. Yes. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the third season of Women Who Rock the World. Today, with me, I have a special guest. Her name is Sophie, sorry, or I butcher your name to start
No,
with.
it's all good.
Sophie Aurélia Young. She's from London. She's from the UK. And I'm going to start by telling you guys a little bit about her, but I'm going to let her introduce herself to you guys. So, for those who don't know her, she's the bass player for Star Circus. And she also has a clothing line, Bloodlust Clothing. She's going to tell us more about both worlds that might seem like music, fashion, it's always art, but of course they're very much intertwined. Hello, Sophie.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I was very much looking forward to this. I had like tons of questions and tons of stuff that I wanted to talk about, and then I stopped because yeah, something that I told you before, and something that probably people that watch this don't know. This is very much spontaneous. Is a I want to keep it as spontaneous as possible. Of course, there's stuff that I want to ask. I want to make sure that I don't forget. But the purpose of this podcast is to be spontaneous, have a honest conversation and honest talk, and inspire women and inspire everyone out there, really. So, how are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Yeah. So, did you want me to tell our audience a
Yeah,
little bit
sure. Well,
about?
actually, what keeps you most busy at the moment? Is it fashion or is it
So, I
music?
would say my clothing brand is like my day job. I do that full time, and I'm lucky enough being self-employed that when music stuff comes up, let's say a tour or recording, whatever it is, that because it's my own thing, I can be very flexible in that and sort of figure out my own schedule. So yeah, everything I do is sort of like freelance, like working for myself. So I'm very able to work at my own pace and have my own schedule.
Well, that's awesome. What's your, if you have a typical day, what's your typical day, or how is your day?
So I'm definitely not a morning person. So I usually like roll out of bed pretty late.
Same
And
here,
usually
if I
like
can.
don't get much done before lunch. I much prefer like starting a bit later and working till late. I think with a lot of creative people, we tend to be slightly later people for some reason. I think just the creative juices get flowing a bit when you've been awake for a bit longer. But yeah, so yeah, like I said, I spend most of my days working full time at this business with Bloodlust Clothing. It's pretty much just me like running the show. So I design everything, I hand make everything in my little studio. And yeah, sometimes I have help from my partner when we do like in person trading events in London, just because having a salesperson in when you're trying to actually sell to people face to face is always helpful. But yeah, so I'd say like that's what I do in the day, and then obviously music. Sometimes rehearsing in the evening, either with the band or just like working on my own thing. Or we're recording a lot at home at the moment, trying to finish off our latest album, just finishing off some vocals and guitars and things. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So now the while you were talking, I was thinking, because it's making a piece of clothing. It's like making a song in a way. It's
Yes, it's
like,
certainly the way I work.
how do
Yeah.
you start with the sketch, or how do you get an idea, and how this idea comes to life?
I think the way that I run my business, with a lot of things being one of a kind or bespoke, I do really like to just um, sort of not make it up as I go along. Like I've always got an idea, but sort of see how the creative process flows. And yeah, like in a similar way, writing a song, like you don't quite know how it's going to end up. But for me, with the fashion stuff, like that's my favorite way of working. Obviously, when you've got like a custom request and you've sent off a sketch to a client to approve, then obviously like I try and make that as close to the sketch as possible, because they've already agreed that they like that idea that I've sketched up. But yeah, a lot of the collections that I try and release every month, I very much sort of try and keep very creative with it. So just sort of like, I might just pick the fabrics, like what I see in front of me or something, and just be like, oh, actually that works really well together. But I would say usually there is like a little bit of direction behind it, whether that's just like I've sketched maybe one outfit that I'm going to base the whole collection around, or if there's something new I want to try, or a specific fabric that I want to incorporate into every piece. But yeah, the way I like to work is like a true artist. I don't like to stick
And
to one
that's
thing and
awesome.
definitely do,
It's like
like,
everyone's dream, you know, that you get like to be like an actual artist and do your thing, you know, and make it a full-time profession.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's
How
like,
did you start? Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, it's just quite different to working in, let's say, if you're employed by someone else in the fashion industry. So that's why I love so much about it, is that I do have that freedom myself.
Yeah. And I was asking, how did you start your brand?
So let me think. So this was maybe 6 years ago now, and sorry, I'm just getting distracted because my doorbell's going, but
Do you need to
I
answer?
think it's fine. So
This is
so
live.
because I've yeah, because I did a degree in fashion design, I kind of always knew this was what I wanted to go into. And I was working in the fashion industry for someone else. Um, and I was just feeling quite disillusioned with that, like not feeling creatively fulfilled. Like I've always really wanted to be a designer, and I wasn't in that sort of position, because that's such a creative position to try and get within the industry. So I just sort of started making a couple of little bits, like more my clothing style, because obviously like in the alternative world that's quite niche in comparison to yeah, in comparison to like I was working for a high-end manufacturer, so it was very, very different style. So yeah, like at the time I just started selling a couple of bits on Etsy, and I got a lot of really positive responses from that. So yeah, I was just enjoying doing that to take away from the job that I wasn't massively enjoying at the time. That was like my creative outlet. And yeah, obviously, and well, I think I quit that job just before lockdown, which was, I had enough at that point. So lockdown, I was kind of like figuring out what I was going to do. And yeah, it wasn't until I think 2021 when I decided this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this business full time and just put everything I have into it. So yeah, and then it really
So
picked
you
up
you
once I
quit
decided that.
your other job.
Yeah, so that, yeah, working with the in the luxury garment manufacturer, I'd been there for like 2 years, and I was like, this is enough. This is not what I want to do with my life. And it really put me off the fashion industry. I was very much like, this is not how I envisioned things. Like
Mm.
I went into this wanting to be a designer, and that, yeah, and that was just like the least fulfilling job ever. So yeah, I just kind of took that leap of faith and just decided, like, if I just try and put all my energy into one thing, you know, I'll have some success with it. And I'm really glad I did, because I think it was a really good decision.
Yeah. How that makes me think it's a lot of, not a lot of, but many artists in any field, you know, music, acting, fashion. It comes a point to where like you're in front of that decision. Probably you're working for someone else, or maybe like in a totally different field. At least you were in the fashion world, maybe in a different field, like that really like you're hating doing it. It just pays the bills. And then you start having maybe like little bits and pieces of success and positive feedback, and then you're there like, what do I do? Because maybe it's like it starts being an income but not a full-time income, and you have to make that jump. How was it for you? How did you live that, if you remember?
Yeah, I think because it took me quite a long time to come to that decision, just because I was feeling very disillusioned with the entire fashion industry, just having not been able to find a job in what I wanted to do, and just seeing parts of the industry that are quite ugly. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to contribute to that. You know, there's thing like a lot of like exploitation of workers and a lot of waste, and just things that I just really didn't want to be part of. But yeah, once I decided like I'm going to do everything by my own rules, set up my own little brand and just see how it goes. So yeah, just set up my little home studio, just bought some industrial level equipment rather than my little sewing machine I was making things on before, and was just like chose to invest in myself. And yeah, just like made my website look more professional, and then yeah, things really just took off from there. So I think it's just about having faith that if you're good at something that you know you can just go for it, and you don't always need someone else or someone to employ you to really just follow what you're really passionate about.
Did you have support from family and friends? Because this is
I,
another heated topic, you know. There is like people that get really positive help and support or not.
I mean, yeah, my friends and family and my partner have always been like just very encouraging of what I wanted to do. Like my parents were always very encouraging that I wanted to go into something artistic. Like they were fully for me studying fashion, even though that's not a particularly academic thing to do. But yes, they were always really behind me. Thankfully, I didn't really need much financial support because I managed to just start from nothing. Like just bought a machine, started with some not very expensive materials. I didn't need like an investor or anything. But yeah, everyone around me, everyone close to me has just been so supportive, and yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, and like from today is 2024. Well, today is not just 2024, but it's September 18th, 2024. But where would you like to see this going? If you
um,
thought about it.
I mean, I try not to like decide too much on that because I think that's an easy way of becoming disappointed. Like I didn't know where I'd be now, and I'm very happy with where I am. But yeah, I really love making stage wear for artists, like music artists, also some like wrestlers and things. So like I always find that such a creative project when someone comes to me with an idea, and it's very fulfilling being able to bring that to life for someone, and then seeing images of them like performing in front of thousands, sometimes millions of people. So yeah, definitely carrying on with the stage wear thing, because I really just love the feeling of bringing people's visions to life, like within my own style. And yeah, I still really love like making everything myself. So I don't know if I'd ever like expand the brand into having like anyone helping me manufacture things. But I think if the demand got there, it's definitely something I'd consider.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, we're talking about, investors. That's the first thought that I got. Like you started without an investor, but maybe um, sometimes in business, the bigger you get, the more financial help you need. It's not just about
Of
people
course.
around you,
Yeah.
um, but the more financial help you might need. But sometimes, especially if you want to keep it niche and you're like, no, I'm not gonna. Well, I think it's true though that anyone can become, not anyone, but with hard work, you can become um, as big as you want with staying true to your ethical values. Because
Mhm.
something that actually got my attention was like that you saw a lot of waste, in the fashion industry, in any industry, probably
Yeah.
in general. And that makes me think, about the so-called fast fashion, and all those brands um, that, I mean, we all feel like we need to change clothes,
That's natural. Yeah.
natural, but where's the point of looking good, looking great, using clothing as a means to express ourselves? What's the point between this and then wasting too much to where it's detrimental to other people and to the planet?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing with like what I definitely want to keep within my business is keeping it really small, like tiny production amounts. Like even if I do like a multi-size piece, it's still I'm only producing very small amounts that I know I'm going to sell. Whereas huge companies just end up like churning out loads and loads of pieces that just get thrown away. And that's what I love about the bespoke aspect, is that you're making it for someone, they're going to wear it, it's not going to go to waste. But also, yeah, I just think we should encourage people to like invest in things that they're going to wear over and over again, or like for a reason, rather than just like, oh, that's really cheap, like that's a good deal, let's buy that, and then maybe never even ending up wearing it anyway. So
True, true. Yeah, have you ever, I don't know how difficult it is to do this. There's a lot of bigger brands that do like recycle material, you know, or cotton that is recycled, or it's that it's more sustainable. Is it something that even smaller brands can think of, or is it something that is maybe, I don't know, like too expensive, or you need too big of a production to
I think it's certainly in some capacities it's very easy to do. Like for example, obviously like I have suppliers that I buy my fabric from. Sometimes like I buy the end of the line fabrics when they only have a couple of meters left, because let's say a business that's producing a lot more, they wouldn't be able to do anything with that because they'd only be able to make a couple of pieces. Whereas that is exactly what I'm looking for, because I only make a couple of like pieces that are all handmade. So yeah, so I buy like the end of the line fabrics that would either be otherwise thrown away if there weren't small businesses like me to take them off their hands. But yeah, like even things like the lacing that I include in a lot of my products, which is like the adjustable sort of aspect, like that lacing is it's recycled cotton yarn. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's a lot out there that you can just find very easily, like even without like really knowing many industry suppliers. Like there's a lot you can do.
That's cool. That's really cool because it's something. I love fashion. I don't own too much clothing, too many pairs of shoes, and etc. Because I try to go with quality rather than quantity, and then I admit I end up buying sometimes the cheap thing that then I'm like, why did I do it? Because then you wash it 3 times and you can see, you know, that the fabric it's not there because it anyway. I'm a woman. I'm guilty.
No, we all do. Yeah, it's an impulse. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
going to pretend that I don't either.
um but yeah, so I always like to look at things like from a behind the scenes perspective. That's probably why I work behind the scenes in music, you know, and I started as a singer, because I think if people knew more about what happens like behind something like a piece of garment or any type of like shoes, for instance, I think we would all make different choices, probably.
Yeah,
Probably. Maybe
I
not, but
absolutely agree with that. Like, because this is actually something I've noticed with like my customer base. Sometimes it takes a lot of time to do this, so I'm like quite bad at getting it done. But posting like reels and videos of my process of how I hand make everything, people just love seeing that, and that really like shows them the value behind what they're buying because they can see how much work I put into it. And for me, yeah, like when I see people doing similar things, like I've no idea like how to make shoes, but I just love watching these videos of these people who are just insanely talented at their craft, like hand making things that I would never imagine of doing. And it really just puts it into perspective, like how much work goes into these things. That yeah, I think that's like a really good thing about social media, is that you get to see these behind the scenes things that you might just not ever consider otherwise. So I do think in a way like social media has had a positive impact on people like appreciating quality and trying to, although obviously like fast fashion is pushed on you a lot with social media as well, but depending on, you know, the accounts that you're following, you can really.
true. Yeah, you can make, but you can make a choice, you know, and decide which accounts to follow. Um, Talking about social media, actually, something that struck my attention checking your website, I was checking the frequently asked questions, and uh, one of the last questions was like, do you work with influencers and stuff? And you said like, no. um oh my god, what was it? Refresh my memory, please. No, we
I
um
think just the point is that the pieces are for purchase.
yeah, prepared. Yes, yes, that was I'm sure when I read that, I kind of like had a smile on my face because I imagine you sitting there having to answer That's why you put it right there, correct?
Yeah, I have to. I mean, honestly, it's like
How many requests?
sometimes more than 10 a day, sometimes none, but I have had weeks where it's just messages every single day. And I'm like, do you realize how many hours it takes to make one piece? I'm not just going to send it away.
Yeah.
But yeah,
How
I'm
many
very
hours?
lucky that some people with huge followings are very willing to purchase my things and tag the brand and help spread the word. So I'm very grateful for them, because they could be these people asking for
Yeah.
free things, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of high profile people who are very appreciative of my work and understand its value.
How many hours behind like a pair of shorts, for instance? That's first piece of clothing that comes to
Yeah.
mind.
um it depends, like how many different fabrics, how many studs and things, but we're looking like upwards of 4 hours for one pair of shorts, but I won't say how long like the longest is. But yeah, it's always like
But
several
yeah,
hours per piece.
I hope people realize, because sometimes when you see a price on things, and that goes with music, and I'm gonna ask you about music. That's what a lot of people outside the music industry don't understand. Like, why should I pay for music? And that goes into another thing that if you want we can talk about. But like, why do I have to pay? Or concert tickets, why do I have to pay this to see this artist? Like, why do I have to pay this for this piece of clothing? It's like, well, it's the fabric, and it's the X amount of hours that it takes you, in this case,
Yeah,
to
I
make
mean,
it,
yeah,
and
I
then
feel like,
package it
yeah,
when it
exactly. I
gets
mean,
printed.
that's a very small part of it. I mean, thankfully, like, people don't often ask me to like justify my pricing. Usually people have understand enough what it means for something to be handmade, so they understand that it's not being mass produced. And also, I think a lot of the garments being entirely one of the kind like really adds to the value of it. Not that I like put an extra price on it because it's one of a kind, but I think
No,
people do understand that it's my time, it's good quality materials. Studding things takes a really long time, and like putting eyelets in, like
yeah, and,
it's
and
been
they get
several
something
hours,
unique,
like
and they get
yeah,
something unique that it's one of a kind.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, talking about music. You're a musician. Uh, and I remember you started with playing piano, if I remember correctly. So it was
Yeah.
not just, and later on was you went on to bass like later. Um, what when you want to chill, do you play piano or bass?
When I want to chill, I'd say it's like mostly bass at the moment. Unfortunately, I don't have a piano in my house. I mean, we have keyboards,
Yeah, keyboards.
no. When I go and visit my parents, I do like just sitting down at their piano and just, yeah. I still love playing, but the bass has very much become my main instrument. So, yeah, that is my go-to.
Yeah, what are your thoughts about? I mean, we talked about like the price for music or going to a show, and yeah, kind of justifying a price for things. What do you think about the music industry? I mean, what you're very young, so like, mm, for instance, when I was a kid, we had CDs.
I still love CDs. Yeah, I have
I,
lots of
I do
CDs.
love CDs, yeah, and people before me like vinyl, and there's people that still love vinyl, especially in the alternative metal rock music.
Definitely.
But are you pro streaming platform, or what do you think?
I think it's very much got its place. I think, unfortunately, I think everyone is aware of how little streaming platforms like Spotify pay artists, whether they're the composer or the performer. But I do think that streaming platforms like Spotify have their place in terms of like discovering new artists or even established artists that you might have not heard of. Like the algorithm does work really well in terms of recommending things that it thinks that you'll enjoy. And yeah, certainly for a lot of newer or younger bands, it is quite a good way of getting discovered through like playlisting. So although like the financial aspect isn't there, it is still very much like a tool to market yourself. So I mean, I certainly prefer having a physical copy of something, especially when there's like beautiful artwork. Like I think that's why people love vinyl, so you can like look at the sleeve and stuff like that. And obviously you don't get that with Spotify, but you just have access to so much more music. I think you'd have to be extremely rich to like own all of that music on vinyl that most people would have in their playlists. So it's just making it accessible to everyone, which I do think music should be accessible to absolutely everyone.
Has I mean, I'm sure you guys talk to fans, and how do people discover about Star Circus? I mean, is it through social media or is it through Spotify, the algorithm?
So we have had a few people discovering us that way. Also, like YouTube does a similar thing of recommending new artists, so that's worked quite well for us. I'd say more in the past sort of 2 years, we've done a lot of playing live, like supporting bigger bands. We've managed to grow our fan base a little bit doing that, rather than just playing headline shows to people who probably already are familiar with your music. We actually really enjoy supporting artists a lot that we admire as well. And then, yeah, if it all goes well, then a lot of their fans sort of latch onto your music and will then come to your shows. So it's a little bit of everything. I think it changes every month what the main thing is. But I would say, like, yeah, YouTube and Spotify have been beneficial.
Yeah. I mean, I discover about you on Instagram, for instance. If I have to think, and I think you like personally, not the band,
Mm-hmm.
were in the, I think, suggested pages. But it's been a while. I mean, I've been following you for a while. And then when I thought about Women Who Rock the World, I was like, okay, I'm going to reach out and see if I can talk to her for my podcast. I think Instagram works really well, as at least for
Yeah.
me.
I think I would say that, but sometimes it's just so up and down. Like some weeks, my feed will just be
Oh yeah,
like adverts and things that I really don't care about. But
yeah,
it has worked before. I mean, yeah, like I've discovered a lot of cool bands, brands, people in general on there. But it's, I don't know, something's been up with it recently where it's just not working in many creative people's favor, I think. So.
something that you said before. I mean, my mind just you talking, my mind just goes places, and there's well, there's so many things that I think the thing that I'm about to ask you. Um, I know because I come from the music business, but if you would like to share, because I know a lot of people watching this are probably like, okay, they open uh, bigger shows and shows for like not headlining, but for bigger bands. And how did that happen, or how does it happen?
Um, Again, it's very different each time. Some we've been very lucky that we've had connections with a promoter for a certain like local venue that we've then sort of asked, like, can you put in a good word for us? And obviously the band need to agree, but so yeah, obviously like having personal connections and going out and meeting people is always a good thing. With some of the others, it's been through word of mouth, but having played with other bands who've then gone and recommended us to their friends who again are like slightly ahead of us in the industry. So yeah, for example, like later this month we're going to head out on tour with a band called Spread Eagle, who had some pretty successful songs in the 90s. But they recently brought out an album, so they're touring that. And we got that through a band called Kicking Valentina, who we'd played a couple of shows with them, and we'd just gotten really well as people. And I think they thought we put on a professional show, so they actually recommended us. That was very kind of them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I think, and that you see, and that's what I want to tell musicians out there, because that's the majority of my audience. uh, hard work and going out there connecting with people pays off. You know, sometimes a lot of people look for shortcuts. It's the same thing as buying fake followers, you know, on social media
Yeah.
versus connecting
That's
with
not going to
real
get you
people. I mean,
anywhere.
yeah, real life and social media are pretty much the same. You need to connect with real people. Rather have 10 people instead of 100, but they really connect with you. And you actually said basically the same. It's about connecting, good relationship with people, and of course, putting on a great show
Yeah.
because, of course, but that's hard work pays off, you
Hmm.
know, and that's the you're the living proof that both in music and fashion is it's about hard work and believing in yourself and your dreams, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've just got to love what you're doing and believe in it. But I would certainly say, like, just going out and meeting people is underrated. And sometimes my partner and I, Dave, who's the front man of Star Circus, like, we joke if we're going on a night out, they're like, oh, this is work. So we're going to network. Like, we're going to this other show because, like, we'll talk to people and get them to come down, come to ours. We'll connect with people in the industry. And yeah, there's been a few festivals that like have invited us purely for the purpose of networking. So we've been very grateful to them that we've met people in the industry through that. So yeah, there's really nothing quite like just going out and meeting people, because sometimes you might send out an email and people just receive like thousands of emails. They're not going to take any notice. But if you go out and you meet a promoter and you make a good impression, like that's going to last with them.
Absolutely. So what's coming up for Star Circus?
So we've got a couple of shows coming up, like I said, supporting Spread Eagle. We're also doing an indoor festival at the end of the year called Hard Rock Hell, and there's some really great bands performing there. There's Wednesday 13 and Hardcore Superstar on the same day as us. I'm really looking forward to seeing them. Um, at the moment, we're still in the process of finishing recording our second album, which we're hoping will come out early next year, possibly around March. But we're releasing our second single from that at the 25th of October, I think. The last Friday of October, anyway. I don't know if I've got that date right. So, yeah, we just filmed a music video for that last week, which it's going to be epic. It's like a huge power ballad. But yes, that's the next release. So, end of October, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think we're close to wrapping this up. Is there anything that you would like to add? Uh, Free, just go.
I don't know, you put me
On
on the
any
spot now.
topic, on any topic, like fashion, music, just
I don't
go.
know. I think kind of like what we were saying to each other before we went live on the platform, just that like we're passionate about inspiring people to just chase what they want to do. Sometimes when you're creative, that's like a really hard thing to just like put yourself out there and just decide to invest in yourself. And I think yeah, people, whether they want to be an artist, if that's like painting or music or whatever it is, like you've just got to have faith that you're great at what you do. And if you believe in yourself, other people will see that. And yeah, there's no reason why it shouldn't work. And yeah, making loads of money isn't the definition of everyone's success. Like there are plenty of other ways to be successful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because then, yeah, if you make money and then you're miserable, and there, and you can actually make more money by being happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, this was it's a great message. And of course, I'm a big supporter of dreams and believing in dreams, and also learning to hit a wall sometimes, you know, when it's frustrating, but then you just go back up and you do it again, and eventually, you know, you go through the difficulties, but it's all worth it. And I would encourage people not to get discouraged, because we've all been there, you know, it's part of the process. And you have to go through that process, you know, I
Absolutely.
think, to appreciate even more of what you have and what you can have, you know, if you keep just keep going.
Absolutely. I think as long as you're still enjoying something, you shouldn't give up. And even if you're just doing it for yourself, you should carry on. And if there is something that you used to love and you're no longer enjoying it, like ask yourself why that is and try and
True.
remove
Yes. True.
whatever it is that's caused you to feel that way, because everyone deserves to have a passion and to really like follow that in life, I think.
Awesome. Well, Sophie, thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for your words. Thanks for your answers as well, because I, again, spontaneous and ask you questions as you were talking, basically. Well, thanks again for those watching now. Thanks so much. I'm gonna share this on both YouTube and Instagram for those who haven't been here. So in case you want to rewatch it, we're gonna be here.
Great.
Thanks again, Sophie. Thanks
Thanks
so
so much
much.
for having me. Thank you.
Bye. You take care.
Bye.
Bye.